Good morning, everybody. Happy new week, even though it is Tuesday. For us Victorians, it was a public holiday yesterday. And so Live with Nat is today on a Tuesday. Next to me, I have got the gorgeous Nikki Langman. As you can see behind her, the book, How to Be a Badass. I'm super excited to chat to her a little bit more about her expertise and her book, her future vision, and of what's coming up and all that kind of stuff. So let me give you the official introduction, and then we can get stuck into the gorgeous content she'll have for us. So Nikki Langman, guys, is a professional speaker, emotional intelligence and self-mastery expert, a competitive endurance runner, and author of the international #1 best-selling book, How to Be a Badass, Navigating Your Road to Self-Mastery. Nikki is also a recovering alcoholic and an advocate for tackling the stigma and shame that underpins addiction. Through her journey of overcoming adversity, Nikki spent years exploring one question: what does it take to become your most powerful self? The answers to that question are outlined in her book, How to Be a Badass, Navigating Your Road to Self-Mastery. In her book, she shares her badass framework for self-mastery and demonstrates the powerful principles that you can apply to your life every day to get the results you want consistently, increase your courage and confidence, deepen your authenticity, take more purposeful action, lead more effectively, and manifest love and respect for yourself at all times. I love that, Nikki. So how are you anyway?
Wow, Nat, after hearing that, I sound fantastic. So
I know, I always feel that way when someone reads out my bio. I go, really? I've done all of those things?
I know, you're like, wow, a little bit of, chuffed and humble at the same time. So yeah, thank you.
Oh,
I'm fantastic and so excited to be here this morning.
beautiful. And tell me, I want to know, like, what was the catalyst for you to start this journey to write the book, and tell us a little bit of your backstory, if you know.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, and I'll discuss a little bit more of that context in a minute. I am a recovering alcoholic and addict, and that has been something that has been with me for my entire life. Something I talk about in the book, and it's kind of been that, it's been that constant, ever-present variable through everything that I've done. So where the book came from and where my journey in, wanting to write a book is, I wanted to be a professional speaker. So I was already, I had a career in emotional intelligence, facilitation, corporate learning and development. And I love being in front of people. I love being on stages. I love doing keynote presentations. I love training, facilitating. I love helping people have their own aha moments. And so I embarked on a journey as I was corporate L&D professional, and embarked on a journey to upskill myself in presentation skills to be the most powerful speaker and facilitator that I could possibly be. And through that process, I started to learn what's really important to speakers, especially ones that are keynotes, is that keynote speakers have incredibly powerful personal narratives. And I thought, wow, honestly, I thought, well, I don't really have a great story. I don't have a shark attack story or a debilitating illness. I haven't overcome cancer 6 times. Like what's going to make me an authority about inspiring people and motivating people to be their best selves? And I really carried that limiting belief. I just didn't want to talk about the thing that I was most ashamed of.
Yeah.
And, kind of all my life had this, this disease that was hidden. It was under wraps. It was, like, Nat, if you know everything about me except that, you'll like me. But if you know that, your perception of me will change. And that's the story I told myself. So in this process of wanting to be a speaker and really be a inspiration to others, I started to realize that I had to start telling my story, because that's a credibility issue. If I say, hey, you know what, I'm an authority on resilience and self-mastery, and people look at me and go, okay, why should I listen to you? And so I think that the book was born out of that process of me realizing that I had to tell my story, and I had to work through that process of my own shame that I'd been carrying for so long to be able to to speak publicly and to say, hey, okay, we're all human. We all have adversity.
Yeah.
No one's adversity looks the same. It's all, we carry our own adversity, but how do you overcome it? And how can I write a book? How can I give you a keynote? How can I inspire you to overcome your adversity, whatever it looks like? The badass, can I tell you in your
yes,
listeners?
Please.
Okay.
Yes, I want to know, because I know it's an acronym, and I'm sure the listeners are curious. What does it mean?
It didn't start as an acronym. It actually was an affirmation. So a word that I like, because knowing that there are many different ways to interpret the word badass. Yeah. The definition that I personally like the best is a badass is someone who is the best of the best at what they do. So it kind of falling into that, becoming the most powerful version of yourself, the best you that you can possibly be. And so I was, on stages telling my story, talking about being a badass, and how I'd overcome so much adversity over the years. And the badass was like my affirmation, like, you got this, you're a badass, you can do it. And then I started to realize, as I started speaking to more international audiences, that the word is not always interpreted in the way that I meant it. So then I had to really break it down. I had to go, well, okay, so what does it mean? What do I think a badass is? What are the traits, the qualities, or the characteristics that a true badass has? And so I broke it down to B is brave.
Yes.
A is authentic. D is direction or purpose.
Yes. A,
action. S, self-love. And S, self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I just ended up going.
It's just 5, but there's 6.
I'm a much better writer than I am with math. Yeah. So I have 7 fingers there somehow. But so that's, to me, what a badass is. And that's what the book is about. It's about, yes, I share my journey. I take the listener or the reader very deep into those dark corners, the things that I tried so hard to disown. Yes. And I open up in a very, very honest, transparent way that, just says, okay, look, let's pull back the curtain completely. Because also as an addict, I don't do anything halfway. So if I do something, it's going to be all the way. Yeah. And so the way I wrote this book was, pulling back the curtain completely and showing that vulnerability and showing how I overcame it. But then the rest of the book is about you. It's about applying bravery, authenticity, finding purpose, taking action. What do you say to yourself? What does your self-love and your self-talk look like? Yeah. And that's the flavor of the book. That's universal.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, give us something a little bit about, what are some things that you see in people that, prevent them from living their best version? I think the biggest thing that I see every day is limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. Yeah. And that is the last S. I mean, it's important enough to give an entire letter to. Yes. But it is so prevalent. And I hear it in people all the time, the use of absolute. So when people say always, never, et cetera, things like that, it's very absolute. It's very limiting. So I will never be blah, blah, blah. Well, of course you will never be blah, 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 because you've just told yourself you can never be that. So I think, for most of us, the mountain is ourselves. The roadblocks are ourselves. It's the stories that we tell ourselves that stop us. It's not other people. Other people don't try to keep us down, try to keep us from being successful and happy. We stop ourselves. And that message is very much threaded through my whole book, going from my personal story, talking about me and how I was able to get out of the gutter so many times. And it wasn't linear. I didn't just recover once. It was over and over and over. But there was so much self-talk that had to be changed in the way I was, in the stories I was telling myself. And that was the only way out for me, really, was to, change those stories. Yeah, stories can really, really hold us back. I know the stories I've had to change over the last 12 years since I started to be and do the things that I'm doing right now. And so tell me, what's the vision for the book? Obviously, there's the book. You do keynote speaking. So what's your weeks and months look like now? What are the things? How do you help people?
Through a variety of things, but as I mentioned before, I'm an emotional intelligence specialist, and
Yes.
I've become a master trainer in EI. I've also, in the last few years, gotten a lot of training and exposure to nonverbal communication.
Yes.
So, our content, what we say, is a very small percentage of how we actually communicate.
Yes.
So I'd say that those EI and nonverbal communication are my two main things that I'm doing, mostly with corporates, with businesses.
Nice.
So, mostly professional development programs that are contextualized and, bespoke, built for that business and what their particular needs are. So I do a lot of coaching, a lot of facilitation at senior executive levels, as well as middle management and so forth. I would like to, and this is something that's kind of it's happening, it's developing slowly, but to do more personal development as well, and using the badass framework more on the personal development side rather than the corporate side. So I've got the
public,
more for the general public. Yeah. So I use scientifically validated behavior profiling tools and things like that are not a part of my framework, but they're actually things I'm certified in, and I use those in the corporate environment. But I'm in the process of building an online course on the Badass framework, so a 6-part course that just kind of helps people to get more in touch with themselves, more self-awareness, more authenticity. Who are you? And I think it's probably one of the most basic questions in the world and the most difficult to answer. Who are you? Because I think over time we get so conditioned to answering that question in a way that is socially desirable. So if you ask me, Nat, who are you? I'm going to give you an answer that I think you want to hear. Or I'm going to give you an answer that's appropriate for that context, maybe a work colleague or something.
Yeah.
But I think that one of our, and kind of going back to that self-talk, our biggest obstacle is not knowing ourselves, because we lie to ourselves. I mean, that's as honest as I can be. We lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's in the works. Stay tuned. Watch for it sometime this year. Self-paced online learning course.
I love
to help you be a badass.
And you can help so many more people, I guess, achieve their goals and dreams and get out of their own way, which is what I like to say, to live their best lives. I see that firsthand because I do work with the general public, like you guys, who want to write books, and you have this lifelong bucket list dream, and it's just amazing to see the transformation that you can facilitate for someone who thought they were just stuck in that same place. So how does someone go about answering that question in terms of who am I? Do you have some, nifty questions that you would ask somebody in your coaching or in the framework that you use?
Yeah, I've got a lot. You should see my list of self-reflective questions. It's like 20 pages long.
Wow.
But one of the things that I do talk about in my book, but I also use this in keynotes and presentations, is about finding your Currencia. Now, Currencia, I apologize to any Spanish speakers out there. I'm probably mispronouncing it. But Currencia, Querencia, Currencia, is it's a word, a Spanish word. It's kind of like a metaphysical type thing. And it's about finding the place where you draw your most personal strength from. So the origins are in bullfighting. And Ernest Hemingway described Currencia in his book, Death in the Afternoon, by saying the Currencia is the place in the ring where the bull will naturally gravitate toward, where he feels the strongest and like his back is against the wall. Yes. And it will not develop in the beginning of the fight. It comes as the fight goes on. And the matador knows he's got to look out for that bull. Where is that bull circling back to? Where is that bull identifying their Currencia? Because the matador cannot let them get into that place. Because once the bull is there, he's indestructible. He cannot be killed. And it's even said that if a bull were to fight in the same ring more than once, he would win every time.
Yes.
Because he knows where that spot is intuitively. And lots of animals have Currencia in their own ways. I mean, how do animals know to run toward creek lines when there's a forest fire? Why do we burrow in caves or hibernate or build very complex dams? Humans have Currencia too. But our problem is kind of going back to that. We just layer so much BS over who we are. That it's about, kind of getting back to the basics. So I ask people, find your Currencia. Where is it? So what are you doing when you're in your happiest place, when you feel at your strongest? Where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing? What are you reading? What are you eating? What are you drinking? What music are you listening to? Things like that. And it just to really, that's where I would start is, what makes you feel the best, and how can you either have more of that in your life or find substitutes for it. So maybe it's lying on a beach in Bali. Okay, that's fantastic, but that's not going to be possible 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Or well, it could be, but with a raging online personal business. But for most of us, it's not a reality. So when you cannot be on a beach in Bali, what are some other things that you can do that fill your cup up?
Yeah, I love that. A couple of comments there about, I guess sometimes we've heard of that being called like, what's your why? Where our drive or our passion, or Luba's saying sometimes called your core genius. Your genius zone, I've heard it called that. So that's beautifully explained. That was an awesome story of, I could picture it like as you were telling it, no wonder you're an amazing speaker, is, I could picture everything you were explaining, and the bull and the fight and all that kind of stuff. And it really makes that point. It's like, oh, well, what's that for the human being? Good morning. A couple of people saying good morning on the call. So you secretly told me sneakily that there was book 2 on the way as we were about to go live. So I want to know what book 2 is. What are you going to cover off in that one? And tell us a little bit about, because I always know writing books is quite addictive, and that you never stop at your first one. Your first one's just the hardest. You learn a lot through that process. What's book going to be about?
So I'm still, I haven't written it yet. It's still all up here because, I like to say you have to live the content before you can tell the story.
Yes.
So I'm still living the content. But one thing, and again, this is kind of a theme of this conversation that you and I are having, is the second book will be either titled or subtitled Conversations with the Mirror. And it's going to be all about those stories that we tell ourselves. And the conversations that we have with the mirror. And my intention is not going to be, it's not going to be a book about my conversations, although I might, put some anecdotes in there or, sprinkle some of my conversations in there, because I am hilarious. Seriously. Go ask my mirror. She just cracks up every time I walk by. And I actually do have some literally knee slapping conversations in front of the mirror that I'm really glad no one else can see. But I want to interview other people. I want to talk to successful people, or people who feel like they're successful or are perceived as successful, and talk to them about, what are the conversations they have with the mirror? So how do other people, I'll take you, Nat. Okay, you're a very successful entrepreneur. However, you didn't start at, running a 7-figure business. You started in the trenches, earning very little money and putting out just a hell of a lot of effort. And I want to know from people like you or similar to you, so what changed? How did you persevere? How did you keep going? What were the stories? What were the, what was that self-talk? What was happening in those times with yourself? Because, hitting roadblocks is a fact of life. And nothing goes smoothly without roadblocks. And if it does, well, then you're probably not aiming high enough. True. So, and even some of my dear friends are really impressive athletes, and I want to get inside their head and say, all right, what do you tell yourself? How can I learn from you? So that's
I love
what's
that.
happening
I love
in my
that.
head.
I think we always are curious. What do they do? How can we model them? Like, you know, even at this point, I'm still curious about what people say to themselves, or what routines do they have in the morning? You know, like, you know, you can tell a lot by what a person does on a consistent basis, you know, repetitively. And, you know, those little 1%ers, or the little differences. You know, I observe the people I'm surrounded by, and I can see the ones that are doing well and what they do. And, you know, there's, I think there's commonalities in the, you know, in people who are successful, or those that struggle, or those that are healthy, or those that are unhealthy, whatever it is. And I think that's a beautiful way to pull it all together, because not only will you be helping others by sharing these conversations, but I believe you end up benefiting yourself, because you find out, you know, the strategies, and you can model. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So stay tuned. If you want to be interviewed, please get in contact with me. I'd love to chat with you.
Love it. Love it. So tell me then, how was, like we said, writing your first book is always the most awkward or unfamiliar. You're doing it for the first time. So how did you find the process? I mean, we worked together, I think it was a bit over a year ago, that you were at your retreat and doing all of this. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. This week is my 1-year anniversary since my book was published.
Yeah.
So it was March of 2021. And I was in the August 2020 retreat, and kind of what happened. So, you know, how I said I was in corporate L&D, and then when COVID, and so I was already training to be a better professional speaker. I had already thought about writing a book, but it was more like that 3 to 5 year plan, because I had a full-time career. I, you know, had to prioritize things. So I was like, okay, one day I'll get to the book. And then COVID happened in March of 2020. And in April, just a few weeks later, I was made redundant. And I thought, all right, wow, here's my opportunity. Like, you know, I did not at all see it as a setback. I saw it as the road in front of me has just been cleared. And so I then committed, you know, it took me like a week to, you know, lick my wounds and get over it. But then, you know, then I committed, I'm like, just start now, you know, get it off the 3 to 5 year plan, because God knows the things we put on the back burner tend to stay on the back burner.
Yeah.
So the best advice I could give to anyone who is even thinking about writing a book is start now. You have absolutely nothing to lose by starting now. And if you have excuses, and they are excuses like, oh, I got kids, or I got, you know, an elderly family member, or a full-time career, okay, that's fine. But if you want something bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen. You'll find the time. And so me, again, those, you know, the attitude of the roads had, you know, the obstacles have just been cleared. I've got a clear path now to do this, and I have to do it now. We had no idea in early 2020 what the next 2 years was going to look like. And being in Melbourne, there was some very long periods of lockdowns. And I don't know, maybe it was a guiding hand from above or something, but everything fell into place. I started writing, you know, putting the framework together. I started really thinking about the BADASS acronym in those months between April, when I had all of a sudden a lot of free time, to August, when I did my retreat with you. Yeah. And so all of the storyboarding and things happened in that point of time. And seriously, when I say storyboarding, I covered a wall in my apartment with butcher paper and just put sticky notes everywhere. So I saw the whole thing. I saw the whole book in front of me. And that's how I think best, you know, big picture thinker. I love that. Yeah. And
I think I remember seeing some pictures of you sharing on social.
Probably. Yeah. And then, you know, there was about 4 months where I just fully immersed myself. And, you know, and got up at 4 o'clock every morning, because yes, I did have, you know, a child and a husband that needed attention too. So, you know, I made it happen by getting up at 4 o'clock every morning and getting in front of my computer. And, you know, over 4 months, I was able to put out a book that I'm pretty darn happy with. Yeah. And so that I think that what you and your team did, and then I think this is important for anyone who's listening, who's who's going, wow, well, if she can, maybe I can, and I should and want to, is that you and your team guide you every step of the way. So I never felt like I was out of my depth. I never felt like I couldn't do it. It wasn't like I started the process and then stopped because I lost confidence. My confidence kept increasing because I knew I had a team there to support me. And that was critical.
Thank you so much. Like we've loved working with you. As I say, you work with some people and they're just absolutely, great students. If you, following the system, following the recipe, and you did exactly that. And I'm super proud of everything that you're putting out there and all that sort of stuff. So let's tell the guys where they can get your book. Like, let me just show on the screen a beautiful picture of Nikki's book. There it is. I know you've got the banner there behind you. And also, guys, I'll pull up, and Nikki's got her own website as well. I'll just pull that up so you can see where it is. And those that might be listening to this as a podcast, then we'll tell you exactly how to spell the website. So it's nikkilangman.com, NIKKILANGMAN.com. And Nikki, tell them that anyone that's listening to a recording or live this particular interview, they can put in a special code to get a special discount. Explain what that is.
Absolutely. So I want to give 48% off the book to anyone that's listening to this podcast, or even if you've read my book and want to get extra copies for people that you know, that you work with, that you love, etc. 48% off. And so when you go, and that'll be evergreen, I will not pull that code down. So you can use that at any time. And so if you go into what Nat was just showing you, the tab that says Badass Book, and put it in your cart, when you get to the end, it'll ask you for the coupon code before you check out, and just put in the number 48.
Nice. Easy to remember, because of course she's talking to the ultimate 48-hour author, so we chose that to be the code so you guys can really easily remember it and not have to remember a long-winded word as well. But that's nearly half price. Like, seriously, it's pretty much Nikki's getting her book into people's hands at cost price, pretty much, I would say. So thank you for being so generous with that. And if you don't get it off Nikki's website, you can also find it on Amazon and all of your good online resellers, because it is distributed worldwide, and it is a #1 Amazon bestseller. So do check it out. I think you've got so many wonderful anecdotes and metaphors that you share, and you write beautifully and you express yourself beautifully. So I think it would be a very enjoyable book to read, that hopefully it'll also inspire change and action in other people.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add? What will be your parting words with this audience?
Oh, geez. Well, that's a question I hadn't thought about. So if you go to my website, on the homepage,
yes,
it pretty much has everything that I'm about in 4 simple sentences. Own who you are, know what you want, take action, and don't give up.
I love that. That's it. Guys, just remember those 4 sentences, and go check out the website, check out the book. And Nikki, I really appreciate you giving up some of your time today to meet with us and to talk to our audience and the people that are going to be listening to this over time. Get in touch with us, get in touch with Nikki. She's absolutely inspirational and amazing. And I can't wait to see where you are in 6 to 12 months time. And definitely looking forward to seeing the book to evolve ahead on your journey. So I really appreciate it. And guys, remember, go and smash it out now.